This particular video will have the following contents: definition of a specification, or what are the types of specification which are available regulatory guidance, common test which appears in all the dosage forms, then dosage forms and their specification one by one. Now next is, what is the definition of specification? Specification is a document where all the tests specified with their acceptance criteria which need to be carried out during evaluation of finished dosage forms or starting materials. So this is one document where all the tests are specified and their limits are also specified, that what are the limits need to be followed. We need to have a regulatory guidance. So what are the available regulatory guidance is specified over here. First one is Drugs and Cosmetics Act. In Drug Act, Schedule V is there, where the guidance is given that what should be the ideal specification if your product is in-house and it is not a pharmacopoeial product. Then one guidance is there from ICH Q6A, test procedure and acceptance criteria for new drug substances and new drug products. So this is one more guidance which is available, which can be referred while making the product specification. Then ICH Q3A, B, C and D guidance is also available, which is used for fixing the impurities limit. Besides that, general chapter is available for all the dosage forms in all pharmacopoeias, so we can refer those dosage forms also. In case of our in-house product which need to be sold in India, we need to generally prefer our IP, Indian Pharmacopoeia. Now there are two types of specifications generally which are used in our pharmaceutical industry. First one is release specification and second one is shelf life specification. Now what is release specification? Actually, release specification is the set of tests which is utilized to evaluate the product at the time of batch release. So when we are going to release the batch, what should be the specification and what should be the limits? It is specified in our release specification. So in this, generally people used to have a little bit stringent limits, like our pharmacopoeial limit, if it is a 90 to 110% of for assay, then at this particular stage we generally used to keep 97 to 103 or 95 to 105 as per company policy. Then shelf life specification. Shelf life specification is a set of tests and their limits where it is specified that what should be the specification for the product which need to be complied till the expiry of the product. If my product is going to be expire in December 2022, then at the end day of December 2022, all the tests which are specified in shelf life specification should be complied. So that is shelf life specification. This is generally used for stability testing. Now there are common tests in specification. So whatever dosage form or you are making API, then this test appears. So what are those common tests? Number one is description. So what is the description of the material or dosage form? It is generally specified in our specification. Identification is the second one, and assay or content. So these three tests are generally is a part of a specification for every dosage form. Now we are taking some of specific dosage forms. So what are the general tests which generally appears in the specification? So if we consider tablets and capsules, generally what are the tests which need to be done? They are description, identification, physical parameters. In physical parameters you can have length, width, diameter depending on the dosage form. Then your average weight and uniformity of weight, which is given in general chapter of pharmacopoeia. Disintegration time is there, dissolution is there, related substances is there, uniformity of content if it falls in the range of uniformity of content, assay, residual solvents and total viable aerobic counts and pathogens as a microbial profile. If we see liquid orals, in liquid orals what are the tests which need to be done? There are description, identification, weight per ml or density, viscosity of the liquid or suspension, average volume and uniformity of volume, then preservative content if some preservatives are used, related substances test, assay and total viable aerobic count, and pathogens. In external preparations which consists of creams and ointments, your description will be there, identification will be there, weight per ml will be there, viscosity will be there, average weight and uniformity of weight, preservative content, related substances, assay and total viable aerobic count, and pathogens. So this can be the part of a specification. So till this screen we have discussed only non-sterile dosage forms. Now we are talking of sterile dosage forms. When we are talking of sterile dosage forms, then what can be the test which can be the part of a specification? That is description, identification, average weight or volume, uniformity of weight or volume, liquid borne particle counts, bacterial endotoxins, sterility test, related substances or assay. So this can be the part of your specification. In as comparable to your non-sterile dosage forms, sterility test, bacterial endotoxin test and liquid borne particle count is the additional test which is added to this particular dosage form. Now when we talk of API specification or starting material specifications, so what can be the test, possible test which can be included? That is your description, then solubility, identification. Identification may be from UV, IR or HPLC identification can be there. A specific optical rotation if the material is optically active. Related substances can be there. That's as a impurity profile. Assay, that is must. Residual solvents if the solvents are used in the manufacturing of this particular API. Bacterial endotoxin test can be there if the particular API is used for sterile preparations. Sterility test can be there if this is used for dry powder injections, and particle size distribution can be there for your tablets and suspension dosage forms. So again this can be customized a bit, and along with it microbial limits will be there depending on the usage of material in respective dosage form. Now what should be the assay limit for all dosage forms? For vitamins and enzymes, not less than 90% is applicable. For the products other than vitamins and enzymes, 90 to 110% of the label claim is applicable, and the limits which are specified in Schedule V in the dry formulation containing antibiotics, we can have a limit of 90 to 130% of the label claim. So in between this band we can have in-house limits that we can keep 90 to 120, we can keep 90 to 110, but as per Schedule V 90 to 130% is allowed. In liquid formulation containing antibiotics, the limit which is allowed by Schedule V is 90 to 140%. In between we can keep any suitable limit for our product evaluation. Now related substances. As per Indian pharmacopoeia or whatever the products we are going to give in our Indian market, so whatever related substances limit is specified for finished pharmaceutical products, unspecified impurity it should be not more than 0.5%, specified impurity it is not more than 1%, and total impurities should not be more than 2%. For active pharmaceutical ingredients, unspecified impurity should not be more than 0.3%, specified impurity it should not be more than 0.5%, and total impurities should not be more than 1%. All these things are given in general chapters of Indian pharmacopoeia, and if our product is in-house we can apply these limits. Then ICH Q3 gives a guidance on the limits of impurities for the products designed for international market. If we are going to do the export to other countries, then whatever the guidance document for impurity is there, which we discussed earlier also, it should be referred from Q3A guidance, A, B and C and D. Now we are going into details of disintegration time. As per IP, If your tablets are uncoated, then the DT should be not more than 15 minutes. For coated tablets, it should not be more than 30 minutes. For dispersible tablets, not more than 3 minutes at 25 degrees centigrade. For mouth dissolving tablets, not more than 3 minutes at 25 degrees centigrade. For chewable tablets, DT is not applicable. For sustained release tablets, DT is not applicable. For enteric coated or gastro-resistant tablets, it is done in 2 stages. First stage is acid stage. In 0.1 normal HCl, the tablet should not crack for within 2 hours. For 2 hours, we need to run the tablets in 0.1 normal HCl, and the drug release should not be more than 10%. All the tablets for enteric coated or gastro-resistant tablets, the tablet does not show any signs of cracks in 0.1 normal HCl for 120 minutes, that is 2 hours, and all the tablets should disintegrate in 6.8 phosphate buffer in 60 minutes. Then dissolution test. For immediate release tablets, not less than 70% of the label claim is general. People used to keep this limit. And for sustained release tablets, minimum 3 points need to be kept. First time point can be 1 hour or 2 hour. Second and third time point can be as per the dosage form or as per the drug requirement. So first time point limit should not be more than 50%. If more than 50% is there in 1 hour or 2 hour, then dose dumping can be a problem. In final time point, the limit should not be less than 70%. So we need to have a release of at least 70% in final time point, what we are deciding in sustained release tablets. Then dissolution test in enteric coated tablets. Not more than 10% shall be released in 0.1 normal HCl in 2 hours, and not less than 70% of the label claim shall be released in recommended buffer. So these are the general limits which we need to keep for enteric coated tablets, which are not specified in pharmacopoeia. For in-house combination tablets, if individual dosage form is specified in IP, then same condition medium and the limits can be kept as a specification. In USP website also, the reference is given for dissolution condition, that what should be the media, what should be RPM, what should be the time points. It is given in USP website also, the products which are not specified in respective pharmacopoeia. So that's all in this video. If you like the content, then you can share with your friends so other can be also benefited. Thank you for watching this video, and hope that I will come with some another video again.